Young woman is humiliated for being a single mother. Her final action leaves everyone amazed and changes their perspectives. The bright sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the park. Clara smiled as she walked hand in hand with her son, Ethan. Today felt special. She could almost taste the joy in the air. Birds chirped cheerfully, and the laughter of children filled the space. "Look, Mommy, the swings," Ethan exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. "Let's go," Clara replied, her heart swelling with hope. It was moments like these that made her feel alive, away from the worries of daily life. She pushed Ethan on the swing, feeling the rhythm of his joy lift her spirits. But just as she was lost in this perfect moment, a chill swept over her. Clara noticed a group of women sitting nearby, their eyes fixed on her. They shared whispers, their smiles fading into disapproving frowns. "Look at that single mother," one of them said, the words slicing through the air like a sharp knife. Clara's heart sank. She could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on her. In an instant, the warmth of the sun felt less inviting. "Mommy, push me higher," Ethan called, his laughter ringing out, but Clara's smile faltered. The joyful sounds around her faded into background noise, replaced by the echo of that woman's words. Did they see her as less than because she was raising Ethan alone? Clara took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling of isolation. She had always been strong, but today, doubt crept in like a shadow. "Why do they care?" she whispered to herself, but the answer felt heavy and complicated. The moment of joy had turned into a moment of reflection, and inside her, a storm began to brew. As she stood there, pushing the swing, Clara realized that she could not let the whispers define her. She had fought so hard to get to this point, to be a good mother. "Ethan deserves my best," she thought, looking at her son's innocent face. "I won't let anyone take that from us." But the struggle was real. What did it mean to be a single mother in a world that often looked down on her? Clara's heart ached with the burden of societal labels. She felt trapped in a box that others had created for her. "I am more than just a label," she thought fiercely. A small voice in her mind whispered, "You must rise above this." Clara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sun warm her face. She had fought battles before, and this would not be the last. "I will define my own identity," she vowed silently. "I will not be ashamed of who I am." With renewed determination, Clara opened her eyes and looked at Ethan, who was now giggling and swinging higher. "You're my light, Ethan," she said softly. "Together, we can face anything." She felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. "Can we go to the slide next?" Ethan asked, his excitement pulling her from her thoughts. Clara nodded, her heart feeling a little lighter. "Of course, darling, let's go." As they walked towards the slide, Clara noticed the women had turned their attention elsewhere. She felt a small surge of relief, but knew that the journey of self-acceptance would not be easy. Questions lingered in her mind. How would she navigate the judgments? Could she truly find a place where she belonged? With each step, Clara felt a sense of purpose beginning to grow. She would embrace her identity, not as a single mother burdened by stigma, but as a woman with dreams and aspirations. "I will find my way," she whispered under her breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on her back as if it were a gentle promise. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and joy, Clara took a deep breath, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Today was just the beginning, and she was determined to make it her own. Clara sat in her small living room, the sunlight streaming through the curtains. The warmth felt good, but it could not chase away the shadows of her memories. She closed her eyes, and suddenly, she was back in her early 20s, a time when dreams felt within reach. She recalled the vibrant plans she had made for her life. "I will travel the world," she had often said to her friends, her voice filled with excitement. She had imagined herself in bustling cities, experiencing different cultures, and writing about her journeys. But now, those dreams felt like distant stars, too far to touch. Instead, she was here, a single mother navigating the challenges of raising Ethan alone. The weight of reality settled heavy on her shoulders. Clara opened her eyes and looked at the picture of her son on the mantel. His smile brought her joy, yet it also reminded her of the life she had thought she would lead. The memory of the day she learned she would be a single mother flooded back. Clara remembered sitting in the doctor's office, her heart racing. "There is no easy way to say this," the doctor had said, his voice gentle yet firm. "You are going to be a mother, and you will have to do this on your own." Clara's mind had spun with fear. What would she do? How would she manage? Yet deep inside, a spark of determination ignited. "I will raise him right," she had vowed silently. "I will give him the best life I can." Clara shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts and focus on the present. She grabbed her bag and headed to the clinic where she worked. As she walked through the halls, the familiar sounds of the clinic filled her ears. Phones ringing, patients chatting, and the soft hum of medical equipment. But the comfort of routine was soon shattered when she encountered her colleague, Jenna. "Look who decided to show up," Jenna sneered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Did you forget to set your alarm again, or were you just too busy playing the role of a single mother?" The words cut deep, and Clara felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. "I was just—" Clara began, but the words caught in her throat. The shame threatened to overwhelm her. She forced a smile, even though it felt like a mask. "I'm here now. That's what matters." Jenna rolled her eyes. "Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night." With that, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Clara standing there, feeling small and judged. As she made her way to her office, Clara's heart raced. The encounter with Jenna replayed in her mind, each word echoing like a taunt. She wished she could brush it off, but the sting lingered. Just then, Clara noticed an elderly woman sitting in the waiting area. The woman had a kind face, her gray hair neatly tied back, and she seemed to be watching Clara with a gentle gaze. "Excuse me, dear," the woman called out softly. Clara paused, surprised that someone would address her. "I couldn't help but overhear. Don't let her words get to you. You are doing a wonderful job." Clara blinked, taken aback by the stranger's kindness. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. It's hard sometimes." The elderly woman nodded. "I understand. I raised 2 children on my own after my husband left. It was tough, but I learned to find strength in those struggles." Clara's heart warmed at the woman's story. "Really? How did you do it?" she asked, genuinely curious. "I focused on my children," the woman said, a smile spreading across her face. "Every challenge was a chance to show them what resilience looks like. And I found my community. We supported each other through everything." Clara listened, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. "I want to do that too," she admitted. "I want to create something for other single mothers." "Then do it," the woman urged gently. "Don't wait for permission. Your voice matters, and your experience can help others." As Clara walked to her office, she felt a new sense of purpose. The shadows of her past were still there, but now they felt less daunting. She could be more than what others saw her as. She could be a source of strength for herself and others. It was time to rise above the judgment and embrace her journey. Clara sat at her kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating her scattered notes and sketches. Each piece of paper was filled with ideas for a community project aimed at supporting single mothers like herself. She took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. "This could really help someone," she whispered to herself, her fingers tracing the words on the page. The thought of reaching out to other mothers filled her with hope, but doubts quickly crept in. What if no one showed up? What if they did not want her help? Clara shook her head, trying to push away the negative thoughts. "I can do this," she told herself firmly. She grabbed her phone and started typing a message to a few friends she thought might be interested. When the day of the first meeting arrived, Clara's heart raced. She had chosen a small community center for their gathering. As she set up the chairs and arranged the snacks, she could feel the weight of nervousness settle in her stomach. Clara checked her watch repeatedly, wondering if anyone would actually come. As the clock struck 6, a few women began to trickle in. Clara greeted them with a smile, but she noticed the skepticism in their eyes. "Is this really what we need?" one woman murmured to another, loud enough for Clara to hear. The whisper pierced through her confidence, and for a moment, Clara felt small. "Thank you all for coming," Clara began, her voice trembling slightly. "I know we all have our struggles, and I thought it would be nice to share our experiences and support each other." She looked around the room, hoping to see some encouragement, but many faces remained guarded. "I'm not sure this will help," a woman named Sarah said, crossing her arms. "We've all been through a lot. What makes you think talking will change anything?" Clara's heart sank. She had hoped for a warm reception, but instead, she felt the sting of doubt creeping back in. "I just thought, maybe if we can share our stories, we can find some strength together," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The group fell silent, and Clara could see the wheels turning in their heads. She felt a wave of insecurity wash over her. Was she strong enough to lead this? Would anyone really want to follow her? Just when she thought about giving up, an older woman named Grace spoke up. "I think it's a good idea, Clara. Sometimes, just knowing you are not alone can make a difference." The room shifted slightly, and Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. "Thank you, Grace," Clara said, her voice steadier now. "I believe we all have something to offer, and together we can be strong." Slowly, others began to share their stories. One by one, they opened up about their challenges, their fears, and their dreams. Clara listened intently, realizing that their pain was similar to hers. With each story, the walls of skepticism began to crumble. After an hour of sharing, Clara felt lighter. The energy in the room had shifted from doubt to a growing bond of empathy. The women were laughing and nodding, understanding one another in a way that only they could. As the meeting came to an end, Clara stood, feeling empowered. "Thank you all for sharing today. I know we can build something special together. Let's keep meeting and support each other," she said, her voice full of warmth now. The women smiled, some even clapping lightly. Clara felt a surge of happiness. Maybe she was strong enough to lead this initiative after all. As they began to leave, Sarah approached her. "I'm sorry for being skeptical at first. I think this could really help," she admitted, a hint of vulnerability breaking through her tough exterior. Clara smiled, feeling a connection grow. "Thank you for saying that. I think we all need a little help sometimes." As the last woman left, Clara took a moment to reflect. She had stepped into her vulnerability and discovered strength within herself. This was just the beginning, and she felt more confident than ever. Clara knew that with each meeting, they would not only support one another, but also build a community where they all belonged. Clara stood at the front of the small community center, her heart racing as she glanced around the room. This was the day of the first support group meeting she had organized for single mothers. She felt a mix of excitement and fear. The walls were painted in soft colors, but the weight of her nerves made the space feel smaller. As the clock ticked closer to the start time, she took a deep breath, reminding herself of her purpose. The door creaked open, and one by one, women began to fill the room. Some wore weary smiles, while others had tears in their eyes. Clara welcomed each person with a warm smile, trying to make them feel comfortable. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice slightly shaky. "I know it takes courage to be here." As they settled in, Clara felt a spark of hope. The women began to share their stories, and the atmosphere shifted. Each tale was filled with struggles and triumphs. One woman, Sarah, spoke first. "I never thought I would be here," she said, her voice trembling. "Being a single mother is harder than I ever imagined. I feel so alone." Clara listened intently, nodding in understanding. "You're not alone," she replied softly. "We are all in this together." The room filled with murmurs of agreement as more stories unfolded. Clara felt a powerful bond forming among them, a connection that brought comfort to their shared experiences. As the meeting continued, Clara noticed new friendships beginning to blossom. Laughter broke through the earlier tension, and for the first time in a long while, Clara felt a sense of belonging. It was a feeling she had yearned for since becoming a single mother. She smiled as she watched two women exchange phone numbers, promising to meet for coffee. However, the mood shifted when a loud voice interrupted them. A group of conservative parents had gathered outside the center, holding signs and shouting, "This is wrong. Single mothers need to take responsibility," one man yelled, his face red with anger. Clara's heart sank. It was the last thing she wanted to face on this important day. "Who do they think they are?" Sarah whispered, her face pale. Clara felt a surge of tension in the room. The women looked to her for guidance, and she realized this was a test of her resolve. Taking a deep breath, Clara stood up straight. "We can't let them silence us," she said firmly. "We have a right to support each other." With newfound determination, Clara stepped outside to confront the group. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice steady, despite the fear swirling inside her. The crowd turned to look at her, some faces filled with disbelief. "I want to explain why this group is important. We are not alone. We are a community. We need each other to thrive." A woman in the crowd scoffed. "You're promoting a broken family model," she shouted back. Clara felt a wave of doubt wash over her, but she pushed it aside. "Every family is different," she replied, her voice rising. "What matters is that we support one another. We deserve to have a safe space to share our struggles and find hope." The crowd grew quiet, and Clara could see a few people beginning to reconsider their harsh stance. "I am a single mother," she continued, her voice stronger now. "I have faced judgment and shame, but I refuse to let that define me. We all deserve respect and support. If you care about families, you should care about all families." As she spoke, Clara felt the warmth of the women behind her. They stood together, united in their purpose. The tension in the air began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of solidarity. She could see the spark of change igniting in the eyes of some onlookers. After a long moment, the man who had shouted first stepped forward. "Maybe we should listen," he said, his voice softer. "Perhaps we don't understand what you're going through." Clara could hardly believe what she was hearing. This was the change she had hoped for. With the crowd's attention turning towards her, Clara felt a surge of empowerment. She had found her voice, and it resonated with strength and compassion. "Thank you for being open to this conversation," she replied, her heart swelling with pride. "Let's work together to build a community that supports everyone, no matter their family structure." As Clara returned to the meeting, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. The women greeted her with relieved smiles, and Clara knew they had taken a step towards something greater. They would face challenges, but together they could create a space of acceptance and love. Clara felt a sense of hope, knowing that this was just the beginning. As Clara's project started to gain attention in the community, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She had worked hard to create a space where single mothers could find support and friendship. But just when she thought she was on solid ground, an unexpected challenge arose. Her ex-partner, Jake, showed up one afternoon at her doorstep. Clara stood frozen for a moment, her heart racing. She had not seen Jake in over a year. Memories of their past flooded her mind, both good and bad. Finally, she opened the door. "What are you doing here, Jake?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "I wanted to talk, Clara. Can we sit?" he replied, his expression serious. She hesitated, but then led him to the small kitchen table. Clara poured 2 cups of tea, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't know if we have much to talk about," she said, trying to maintain her composure. "I know I made mistakes. I regret leaving you and Ethan," Jake said, looking down at his cup. "I want to be part of both your lives again." Clara felt a surge of conflicting emotions. She had worked so hard to build her new life, to find strength as a single mother. "It's not that simple, Jake. Ethan and I have built a life without you. I'm not sure if we can just pick up where we left off. I understand, but I've changed. I want to help you with Ethan, he urged, his eyes pleading. Clara took a deep breath. I need time to think about this. She knew that allowing Jake back into their lives could shake everything she had worked for. As the days passed, Clara found herself lost in thought. She shared her worries with the women in her support group during their next meeting. The room was filled with warmth, laughter, and shared stories. Clara felt a sense of belonging she had long craved. Jake is back, Clara finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He wants to be in our lives again. The room went silent for a moment. Finally, Mia, a woman with kind eyes, spoke up. How do you feel about it, Clara? I don't know, she replied, her heart heavy. I'm scared. What if he hurts us again? Trust your instincts, said Lisa, another member of the group. You have come so far. Don't let fear hold you back, but don't rush either. Clara nodded, grateful for their support. They shared stories of past relationships and heartache, and she felt the strength of their connections. Laughter mixed with tears as they empowered one another, reminding Clara that she was not alone. Just when she felt a sense of clarity about her situation, the doorbell rang one evening. Clara opened the door, surprised to see the woman who had once humiliated her at the clinic, Sylvia. Clara, can we talk? Sylvia asked, her voice shaky. What do you want? Clara replied, her heart racing again. I came to apologize. I was wrong to judge you. I see now how strong you are, Sylvia said, her eyes sincere. Clara felt a mix of anger and confusion. You don't get to just show up and say you're sorry. You hurt me, she stated firmly. I know. I've thought about it every day since, Sylvia admitted, her voice softening. I was wrong to judge you. I was afraid of what I didn't understand. Clara took a deep breath. It's not easy to forgive, but I appreciate your honesty. Sylvia nodded. I hope you can find it in your heart to let go of what I did. You are doing important work for mothers like us. I'm trying to, Clara replied, realizing that this moment was about more than just forgiveness. It was about her growth. As Clara closed the door behind Sylvia, she felt a weight lifting. She had confronted her past and found strength in the process. Now, she had decisions to make. The next day, Clara sat with Ethan in their favorite park. The sun shone brightly and laughter filled the air. Mom, are we going to see Dad again? Ethan asked, his innocent eyes searching hers. I don't know, sweetie. But I promise to always do what's best for us, Clara replied, taking his hand. In that moment, she felt a surge of determination. Whatever path she chose, she would face it with courage, surrounded by the love and support of her friends and her son. Clara knew she was ready to embrace the future, no matter what it held. The day of the community event arrived, and Clara stood at the entrance of the park, a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling inside her. Colorful banners fluttered in the light breeze, and tables were set up, filled with signs of local support for single mothers. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face as she glanced around at the familiar faces of the women from her support group, ready to share their stories. Clara, look at all the people, shouted Maria, one of the women who had attended the support meetings. Her eyes sparkled with joy as she pointed toward the crowd gathering by the stage. It's amazing, isn't it? Clara replied, her heart swelling with pride. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, hoping to create a safe space where everyone could share their experiences. As the event began, Clara welcomed the crowd with a warm smile. Thank you all for being here today. This event is not just about us, it's about our community. Together, we can support one another and show that we are not alone. The crowd cheered, and Clara felt a surge of empowerment. She had worked hard to bring everyone together, and now, seeing the faces of mothers and children, she realized the impact of her efforts. One by one, the women took turns sharing their stories. Clara listened intently as they spoke of their struggles and triumphs. Each story resonated with her, reminding her of her journey. When it was Clara's turn, she stepped up to the microphone, her hands trembling slightly. "Hi everyone, my name is Clara, and I am a single mother, like many of you here today. I know how hard it can be. I felt lost and alone, but through this journey, I have found strength I never knew I had," she began, her voice steadying with each word. "I want to remind you all that our stories matter. We are not defined by our struggles. We are defined by our strength." As Clara spoke, she noticed the crowd nodding in agreement. It was a moment of connection, and she felt the warmth of support wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. After the speeches, the atmosphere shifted. Laughter filled the park, and new friendships blossomed as people mingled and shared their experiences. Clara watched as Ethan played with other children, his laughter ringing through the air. She felt a sense of belonging she had longed for. But just as the mood lifted, Clara noticed a familiar face approaching. It was the woman who had once whispered cruel comments about her in the park. Clara's heart sank, but she stood her ground, reminding herself of her strength. "Clara," the woman said, her voice shaky, I need to apologize. I was wrong to judge you. I see now how much you have done for this community." Clara took a deep breath. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot to me," she replied, her voice calm but firm. "We all have our own battles. It's important to remember that everyone deserves understanding and compassion." The woman nodded, her eyes filled with regret. "I didn't understand what you were going through. I'm sorry for adding to your pain." In that moment, Clara felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She realized the power of forgiveness. They stood together in silence for a moment, a genuine connection forming between them. As the event continued, Clara looked around at the faces of her new friends and the community members who had gathered. She felt a profound sense of unity. It was a celebration of resilience and strength, and it was hers to cherish. Later in the day, as the sun began to set, Clara held Ethan's hand tightly. They were surrounded by their friends, laughter echoing in the warm evening air. "Mom, this was the best day ever," Ethan exclaimed, his eyes shining with happiness. Clara smiled, her heart full. "Yes, it really was, Ethan. We are not alone anymore. We have each other, and that makes all the difference." As they walked away from the park, Clara felt a sense of peace. She had stepped into her role as a beacon of hope, and together with her community, she would continue to inspire others to embrace their identities without shame. In Willow Creek, they had found acceptance and solidarity, and Clara was ready for whatever came next. Share this story if you believe that strength and community can overcome even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about a moment of connection that changed your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one.